Welcome, everybody. As you might have heard from the chit chat in the preamble, we have expecting about 100 people, and that is just phenomenal. Very, very pleased with the level of interest. I want to welcome you. I quickly went over the list of names. Some of them I recognize, some of them I don't. So thank you to all of you, though, for showing up. For those that have participated in our program in the past, I want to give you a big thank you for doing the good work that you've done and helping to successfully deliver projects in your local areas. And for those of you that are new to the program and just want to participate, I also want to extend a big hearty thank you to you too. We very much want to have new entrants and new participants in the forest economy in British Columbia. And so thank you for coming. The work that we're doing together. Well, first of all, I'll explain the FEST model, and we're a proponent driven as a funding program, and that means that we and our board of directors, we're not sitting in some ivory tower somewhere trying to conceive of some kind of program that we think is that the people need. On the contrary, we depend on you, local experts in industry, in government, the provincial ministries, and local communities, local government leaders. We count on you to decide what projects would work well in your area, and also to decide on how it ought to be done and by whom and when and what manner. And I think that is absolutely key to the success when it's locally, being led but locally by people and that live and work in your local areas. That's so important. And for this particular set of projects that we're inviting applications for, which is fiber utilization, there's such a tremendous environmental benefit from greenhouse gas and less smoke in the air. And so there's a whole bunch of socially redeeming value that really resonates with so many people and citizens across the province. And so I think you should be proud of the work that you're doing. If you may have seen a video that FEST put out some time ago. It's called Climate Change Heroes, and I truly believe that. I was inspired. The idea was spawned from all the climate change protesters, and maybe for those of you that aren't actually speaking, if you could mute yourself, that would be great, just to reduce the background noise for everyone else. But yeah, there was people that were demanding action on climate change, and meanwhile, I'm thinking, we have hardworking people right here in British Columbia in forestry that are quietly taking real action and making a really big difference. So I think this is the kind of work growing our bioeconomy and forestry in British Columbia that you can be proud to tell your family and your friends, your children, grandchildren, grandparents that you're making a really big, meaningful contribution to helping with climate change, and at the same time providing good paying, meaningful, family supporting jobs throughout British Columbia. So hats off to all of you for doing that. So for this program, the FEST, I won't dwell on it too much, but our overriding philosophy is proponent driven, which means you decide what projects should be done and how and when. And also in terms of program administration, everything's very complicated these days, and fiber utilization is no exception. And with market sheds and fiber supply balances and cost structures and profitability and all this and that. But what we've tried to do at FEST, our operational philosophy, is just to try to make the complex as simple as possible. And that includes the application process. Now, obviously, there are, diligence checks that we need to do and processes and data tracking, and that's absolutely unavoidable. But through all that, we've just tried to make it as easy as possible for you, the end user. And lastly, I just want to emphasize the importance of communications. In forestry, we've done great work for decades, but unfortunately, the general public and important decision makers and influencers within the province, they're often not aware of that good work. And I always thought that it was tragic. So here at FEST, we believe in having a very strong communications program with the objective of helping you, the practitioners and the operators in your local areas, earn social license from, people that live and work in your community so that they can see the good work that you're doing and support it. And that grassroots support builds into larger social license for doing good forestry throughout the province. And and your just stories deserve to be told. And so that's and why we do it. And we count on your support when it comes time, when you're doing the project, when you're completing it. You'll get called upon to help us, let us help you tell your story. And so, and there's never been a problem. And I just wanted to thank everybody that's helped us communicate in the past and in writing stories and telling those stories. And for those of you that are new to the program, what you can expect. It's not onerous. We do all the work, but we definitely need you to participate and support that. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the folks to go through, the parameters and the processes for applying for this funding. And I just want to wish you all the best of luck in your applications and in your work that you're doing going forward. So thank you very much, everyone. Over to you, Gord.
Okay, thanks, Steve. And I think we failed to do a real good introduction. So for those of you who joined in partway through, that was Steve Kozuki, our exec director here at FESBC. And I'm going to jump into me. I'm Gord Pratt, senior manager with the FESBC. And I'm just going to give you an introduction here, and then we'll let our team give us the technical details. So a bit of a preamble. Welcome, everybody. I just want to recognize that I am sitting in on this call from the unceded traditional territory of the Secwepemc people, and looking forward to this webinar with everybody here today. So just a little preamble. Premier Eby back in January announced $50 million to FESBC with a primary target of increasing fiber utilization, of getting fiber to the mills that need it. And when we say mills in this category, it's the non-lumber producing facilities. So that's really what we built this intake for, with the intentions of also trying to optimize and Premier Eby's announcement spoke to maximizing getting fiber from our fire damaged and stands. And we're also including the old mountain pine beetle stands as well. So really that's a big piece of it. Now, FESBC has taken some time to develop this intake and develop it through our service plan in regards to the targets that we're looking for. So our service plan of the $50 million that we received identifies that we're targeting to deliver 1.7 million cubic meters of fiber by the end of March 24, with another 500,000 to be delivered by March 25. And then also, we also have funding for wildfire risk reduction projects, which we have targeted in our service plan about 40,000 cubic meters to be utilized. Those are targets, but one thing I want to key in is that our expectation is that a big chunk of the volume is going to be moved in the first year, and will tie into that conversation about what we're looking for in the application. So I think those are key things. That's a large, hefty task. But Joe Namath from the Pulp Coalition is on this call. There is a big demand and need in the pulp sector. We also recognize there's a demand on the pellet sector as well as the energy use sector, and then other smaller ventures that utilize uneconomic fiber across the province. So really that's a big, that's our goal, and hopefully we can get there. Today, I have a team that are going to help us present in regards to support our program. And Brian Watson, our operations manager, will be leading us through the key components of our application guide, which is found on our website. that is called the FESBC 2023-25 Fiber Utilization Funding Program Guide. I really encourage you, actually, it's a requirement to read that guide prior to building your application together to ensure that you understand what you're information that you're providing. And then we'll also have our Pricewaterhouse Coopers team, PwC team here with us today. Colin Campbell's with us, Dan Natter, which if any of you have done an incremental haul in the past has had a lot of work to do with Dan. And then Nino Ramadani will be presenting on how to navigate and steer yourself through FISMS, our FESBC information management system, that the application portal that you'll be submitting your application on. So then we will finish with a Q&A at the end. You can ask your questions either through the chat or the or raise your hand mechanism. And we recognize when we set this webinar up that we had a lot of material that we realized we want to share with you to make this process as easy as possible for you. So we've scheduled an hour, but we are going to plan to stay on for an hour and a half. If any of you have to drop off, this is being recorded and you can go back and get the key information, or as always, you can always reach out to Brian and myself or our PwC team for assistance. So yeah, so I think those are the key things. So I think the one statement that I want to share with everybody that, anyone that's talked to me in the past, the key thing about FESBC is we want all good projects to be successful. So our job here at FESBC is to assist you to get the information so we can actually do a good evaluation of the criteria that Steve spoke to in regards to we have to do our diligence with public funds and make a recommendation to our board so they can make a good decision. We're here to help you get that. There's no tricking or trying to do that kind of thing. And these are all the criteria that we're going to go over here today, or is what we need to be able to present a good solid project with public funds to meet the objective that the Premier set out for us. So really, we're here to help. And I think at this point in time, I will pass it over to Brian Watson to go through a slide deck in regards to explaining the key components of our program guide. Thank you, everybody.
Brian, you're on mute right now.
Thanks, Gord and Steve. My name is Brian Watson. I am an operations manager at FESBC. I live and operate out of Cranbrook, but today I'm calling in from the FESBC office here in Kamloops. So this morning we're going to speak to the funding program. Our team at PwC is going to do a bit of a demonstration in FESMS, and then like Gord said, we'll have some time for questions and answer period here. Gord and I are available at any time to sort of talk about the guide and any other things related to the program. So if you don't catch everything today, just get on the phone and give us a shout, and we can help you out and answer your questions. Like Gord was saying, with the $50 million that we received, we're trying to spend this money in the next 2 years in the utilization program, and then an extension of our wildfire risk reduction projects that we sort of breathed life into last year when we were given $25 million. The guidelines for the application for wildfire risk reduction treatments is on our website. There's a recorded webinar from last year that we did that you can download and get information from there. But today's webinar, we're just going to be exclusively speaking about the utilization of uneconomic fiber. Section 3.1 of the guide speaks to eligible applicants. I'm not going to go through all of them, but it's fairly clear as to who's able to apply to us for funds. I think a big big thing to note here is, and it's not on the list, is they've excluded all lumber producing companies are excluded from making application, and that's strictly to do with SLA and just the preference of our board to deal exclusively with the secondary manufacturers and the people that provide fiber to them. Where partnerships, joint ventures, or other arrangements are in place, third parties may make application on behalf of eligible applicants, and that's on page 3 of the guide where we sort of speak to that. But if you need more information on that, again, call Gord and I. What we need is some authorization on behalf of that eligible applicant, giving the party that's making application sort of you know, the authority to work on their behalf. So it's the applicant's responsibility to provide a complete, accurate, clear, and concise application with enough information for the FESBC board to make a funding decision. So, you know, to get to that point, again, call us if things are unclear. But really, for us to make a good, sound assessment of an application, everything has to be in place. And you know, where we need more information, we may even be contacting the applicants just to get more information if it's not clear. But we ask that you guys really put the time in and get us some great information. Again, that's our Gordon and myself's job to provide guidance to you people to create and submit quality applications that meet the board requirements. And then, of course, we've talked about our team at Pricewaterhouse Coopers. They're there to assist you guys as well, and to help navigate the application portal. The board basically makes funding decisions based on the recommendations from Gord and I. So, you know, work with us. We can be your best advocates when we are in front of the board talking about all the projects. So, you know, let's take the time and build that relationship so that we can get you guys funded through our program. So there are 2 eligible activities that qualify for funding. The first is the utilization of fiber that is associated with primary logging activities. It can include fiber delivered concurrently with primary operations, or include the chipping and grinding of material sometime after primary logging has been completed. So this is just the basic utilization of fiber that's going to be burnt or not delivered to a secondary manufacturing facility. The second stream is where there's overstory removal of burnt or insect damaged stands that has land managers support to actually utilize that fiber. And Gord spoke of that earlier. This came right from Premier Evy's sort of direction to us when the $50 million was announced. There's a few sort of thoughts to that. The fiber must make its way to a secondary facility. You know, the land manager or the district manager or the people in your Ministry of Forest local office have to support the overstory removal first of fire and insect damage stands. These stands must be aligned with the land manager's priorities. And then the revenues from these projects will be expected to offset some of the treatment costs. So it's you know, the revenue is similar to the first stream. The revenue is a big part of the calculation we make when we set our funding levels. Yeah, this is a bit more complicated than the first one, but you know, if you've got opportunities or if you've got projects in mind, the starting point to breathe life into them is to talk to your local Ministry of Forest staff. Calculating the level of funding. There's a spreadsheet, and it's called the FESBC 2325 Fiber Utilization Cost Calculation Template, and it's located in the Information tab of FESMS. This must be filled out with any application that is submitted to us. And basically what we're trying to get at here is the incremental net cost, or the funding level for each different cut or block or cutting permit that's presented to us. And that's just basically establishing what the fiber that we're trying to ship is worth and subtracting the actual cost to get that fiber where it would usually sit post-harvest to a secondary facility. Establishing the market value of the fiber is Gord's going to speak to that in a minute. The incremental delivery cost is basically just finding out again where the residual fiber is typically located after normal operations is complete, and then the cost incurred to get that fiber to the gate of a secondary receiving site. So if today that material is in a slash pile, then we would expect someone to include the material or the cost that would be required to get that material on a truck, whether it's processing cost, a loading cost, and then the transportation cost. All three of them are eligible. It's up to you guys to really tell us, what the current state of that fiber is, and why you guys need the funds to move, or how you're going to move that fiber, and what it's going to cost to get it to that facility. So the spreadsheet really helps us determine if it's fair and reasonable. And when we need more information, we'll probably reach out to you guys. Gord, I'll let you weigh in on the market value discussion.
Yeah, okay. So one of the key things, just in regards for FESBC to ensure that the funds are, are covering what the extra costs are. And one of the key components, and probably one of the trickiest key components, is what is the market value of the end product? Now, FESBC has been doing this for about 5 years. And I think it's one of those ones where in the past we tried to figure it out. And for those of you that have been involved in the past, we have used things like show us purchase agreements to verify what you determine the market value in the last 3 months. And we want to be current. And I think that's one of the key things is in regards recognizing that all product values will vary over time. And what we've done and we're looking for is you need to prove to us that what you're providing as a market value is up to you how you determine that. And then it's up to us to decide if that's acceptable or if we need more information. So really, different proponents have asked us in the past, is it like the last year? Is it the last 6 months? Is it, and we recognize that there's variable pricing across different areas. So really, I think the key component that I want to demonstrate here is to show us when you're asking for incremental costs, we use this number to determine what is that incremental cost. So basically, if the delivery cost is $60 and your purchase price is $50, FESBC funding will be $10 a meter. Now, how do you need to provide us enough information to show us? Now, I've seen it all the way from people showing us exactly what they're actually selling their products for, backed out all their costs, and show me that's what their top dollar is that they can pay for the wood. Others, it's just a share of in regards to current market values of purchase agreements in the same geographic. We're open for different ideas there in regards to how that works for you, because I know that there's, you may have special agreements with individuals in regards to long-term agreements. All those kind of things come into play. So really, I think the key thing is get that information, provide it to us, be able to rationalize it that it's current. Now, the other key component is that this is a 2-year funding opportunity, and we're asking people to submit applications over 2 years. This first round is really about what is the current market value today. And what we've done in the past, and we plan to continue going in the future, is on a seasonal basis, basically our summer and our winter harvest seasons, we will ask for this information to be updated so we can ebb and flow the costs of markets to ensure that the funding that we approve is tied to the current market value going forward, which benefits not only us as a funder if markets go up, or you as the proponent if markets go down and you need more funds. So just recognize this is a bit tricky, and we recognize this funding program is basically expecting different market values. Economic radius is for the pulp, the pellet, the energy use, and other we call the other, which can include cants, fence post, biosoil, any of those kind of things that are out there. And we're encouraging innovation of end products too. So those are kind of key points there. But really, you need to demonstrate to us in regards to a market value that's current, and how you do that. We're flexible and happy to have a conversation about it. So there you go, Brian.
Thanks, Gord. So just on the cost side of the calculation, then applicants must only include costs required to deliver the uneconomic residual fiber from its typical end location after normal operations is complete to the gate of the receiving site. So in the interior, most material will be at roadside or in a landing. On the coast, some material might be dispersed. If today the materials in a slash pile, include the costs required to get the same material on a truck or ground and shipped to the facility. If that includes additional processing and loading costs on top of the transportation, then include all three of them in the worksheet. So that's sort of what I was touching on earlier. We want to make the loggers whole through this process. And we want, that fiber to land at the facilities that need it. This calculation is really important for us to assess fair and reasonableness, and we will use various benchmarks that we have collected to sort of make sure that the costs being presented are sort of typical or what we would expect from the industry. Here's a bit of, I'm just zooming in on a few sections of the utilization incremental cost calculation template, and we'll just kind of go over some of the columns. So under forwarding, when fiber is left typically dispersed in a setting, then forwarding costs could apply or would apply. When the rate should reflect the additional road maintenance costs associated with the impact from the transportation of uneconomical loads, if any. If the delivery of secondary or we're calling it uneconomic residual fiber is occurring at the time of saw logs, then you may have more trucks on the road. You may have to grade that road, another 10% more than usual. So, we've seen in the past that recipients or applicants have put in for costs associated with road maintenance. Some operators will come into a block 2 years after it's been harvested, and the slash piles have now cured and their moisture content's significantly less, and they will grind and ship while inside a block. So there's a column there to include those costs as well. Stumpage associated with the stratums demonstrated by the grade mix, we would expect the stumpage cost to be quite low typically, because it's the lowest fiber that's being targeted here. So whatever your best estimate of that is, and then that there'll be a conversation when the bills are submitted at the end and that wood is eventually delivered. We want to make sure that the stumpage is as close to being presented to us, which you're actually paying to the government. And then where there's a significant cost that's not recognized in one of the columns, then you can include a cost there, but we would ask you to substantiate that cost in the actual spreadsheet. So if you've put $4 there and you've got to barge wood across a lake, then we would expect you to put $4 there and speak to it in the other cost description section in the worksheet. There's a second sheet that sort of speaks to the cost template sheet. It's the I'll speak to administration first. So each project, there's going to be some cost associated with doing the paperwork with PWC and talking to Dan Natter and such. There might be some costs associated with even working with us. So we would expect that applicants would put an administration cost that they anticipate to do that work. And that's just a manual entry into the cost sheet. GST, if proponents is required to invoice GST, then GST is an eligible cost. And we expect you to just include that as well in the application. The combination of those two, plus all of the blocks that have demonstrated a need for our funds, is sort of the total project ask. And that's what we'll use to, to adjudicate your file and to make an average cost so that we can compare against other projects.
Hey, Brian.
Yep.
I just want to highlight, so just on the project administration piece, everybody, the real intent of this funding is to get funds so everybody can deliver more fiber to our facilities across the province. So, but we recognize there's an administration cost to this, but we expect this to, you to manage this accordingly. And, for organization that it's your everyday business to deliver fiber to your facilities, this is really about what the extra cost of FESBC's delivered part or project administration is. It's not to cover the cost of your staff time to do your normal business. So just be careful there. That's something we'll be looking for in regards to the reasonableness of this. Is we want to make sure we have everybody whole, but we're not there to fund a position or a portion of a position that is not just your normal business. So just kind of something to remember, that we really want to focus this funding on the true delivery costs. And if the project administration is part of that, that's great. But we in the past have seen proponents put a significant number in here, and really that's unacceptable. So thanks, Brian.
Yeah, no, thanks, Gord. And we've actually seen proponents as well that have put nothing in there and they just absorb it just with the size of the application that they're giving us. So, fair and reasonable, I think, is the test there at our end. Again, the cost sheet is linked to a delivery schedule. So you'll note that, and this is on the second worksheet within the template. Most of the information just transfers over as you enter it into the first sheet. But there is some manual entries that you were asking you guys to put in, and that's the proposed start date of the delivery of fiber and the end date. That allows us to schedule our funds and work with our accounting team to make sure that they're anticipating when the money is going to leave. It also enables us to report back to Steve, how the proponents are doing, how are our targets that we presented to government aligning for the year. There's just it really helps us do our business. So some people are gonna probably not know what's gonna happen in 10 or 11 or 12 months and 2 years. Gord and I respect that harvesting schedules change daily, weekly, monthly, and that your guys' schedules will change as well. So if something has to get added to this project, then it's as simple as picking up the phone and talking to myself or Gord and Dan or Nino at PwC and say, hey, we want to include this block. We thought it was going to be in year 2, but it's actually going to be next month. And then we would just include it in your project plan, create a milestone for you, get to yes on the funding level, and then you guys go ahead. So there's a lot of flexibility there, but we ask you to really put your mind to developing a really good delivery schedule so that we can report up.
Hey, Brian, can I just add something there?
You bet.
So we recognize that in both this part of the spreadsheet above, the delivery dates as well as the cost piece, that you may, I know you won't know all the blocks over for 2-year period. So really, I think in the first season, you might have a decent idea where you may be going. If you do not know, then I think what we would recommend is that you actually come up with a costing for maybe a geographic chart area that you may be interested in and where you think fiber is going to come from. Do your best estimate of the costs in regards to that, and then the best estimate of the time of delivery. Because we know, we want to approve you for 2 years of funding if possible. And it's just something where we don't want to penalize you if you don't know all the details yet, but we still want to evaluate your proposal. what will happen if you're approved is we'll ask for specific details before your project plans are identified to ensure that the unit costs that you're approved to do will be tied to the project plan approval, which would be the work with FESBC and PwC if and when approved. The other thing too, I just want to state too is as per my opening statements, we have a preference and a requirement that we are really looking for fiber that will be delivered in the first year by March 24. So this proposed start delivery date is key for us in our evaluation process to see regards, and there may be preference. There will likely be preference to projects that can deliver in those first years. That being said, I never like to tell anybody what all the scoring piece is, so don't make stuff up. The expectation will be from FESBC that if you propose delivery dates up until the March, we will be testing you as we go forward in regards to and have an expectation there. So don't just throw in a date in there that's going to get you more points in the scoring that FESBC may do. But please be as real and concise and accurate as you can, because that's the integrity of this program. I think all the information that Brian speaks to here is about the integrity of the program. There's been a lot of work in the background to get FESBC this funding, and the only way it's going to continue is if we can actually demonstrate fair and equitable opportunities for people to meet the needs of the forest sector in BC. And that's only going to help us and our board demonstrate good success to be this being more than just a one-shot deal for FESBC. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Gord. So this is on section 5 of the guide. It gives you a bit of a window on the assessment of your application. These 8 principles are what Gord and I were considering when we look at each one of the applicants. You know, cost effectiveness is a big one, and we hear that repeatedly from the board that, you know, value for money is super important to them. And that goes to exactly what Gord says. We want to report back to the government that we moved the maximum amount of fiber with the least amount of investment, and that, you know, people in many facilities were participating, and many providers of the fiber actually were successful as well. So, I mean, I can't really speak to all 8 of them, but that's the list. And that's what you should be looking back on when you submit your application or prior to, just to make sure that, hey, I've done everything I can to speak to those 8 principles.
Hey, Brian, I'll just add a little bit there if I can.
Sure.
So I just want to remind everybody that, you know, 50 million is a lot of dollars, but you're also in competition with each other in regards to those dollars. A big factor will be cost effectiveness. And, you know, from what I've learned in the past with our approvals is about moving the maximum amount of fiber that we can for the most cost effective way. That being said, we want to see distribution of opportunities across the province, and recognize that there's some parts of the province that to move that fiber to, i.e. pulp facilities, will maybe more costly. So there'll be a balance there, but really there is going to be a significant piece into this in regards to if somebody, and I think in our past we've been around just over $12 a meter on our incremental haul program to date. Just because I know some of you are probably going out there, what are you willing to approve? That just gives you a target where we have in the past, and I think that was very successful and very acceptable. And recognize that if I have a whole bunch of applications that are $8 a meter cost effectiveness, and I got a bunch in the 30, I can probably say comfortably that not many, if any, of the 30 will be funded. I think if you do the math, we need to see everything under $20 a meter. There may be the odd exception for innovation or and of either methods used to deliver the fiber or end product that we can consider that, but I just want to give you a target. That's not set in stone. It'll all be dependent on how many applications we receive and how everybody is competing for the same funds. Our job is to adjudicate that and present to the board in regards to recommendations. So ideally, I'd love to see everything in less than 10, because that means I'll move that many more meters across the province. So
thanks, Gord. So successful applicants, there's a few expectations. All applicants will be notified verbally whether you were successful or not. Successful applicants will receive approval in writing and will attend a webinar on proposal management in FES IMS, including developing project plans and milestones and final submissions. This is all about just your sanity and PwC sanity. These guys are great. These people are great, sorry. And you know, if they can get in front of you and help you with the ins and outs of submitting project plans and milestones and using the right naming of milestones, then it makes your life easier, and it's going to make our life easier. And it's just it's something new that we're doing, but don't fear that. It's just probably another half hour of your time. And once you hear Nino here next, you'll have an appreciation for why it'd be really important. And then when all the paperwork's signed, there'll be a pre-work meeting with Gordon, myself, and the PwC people and the applicants. That's just to make sure we understand, you know, the schedule that we were talking about earlier, that, you know, everyone understands the expectation and, you know, how we can help each other achieve those goals and those expectations. So that's new to us as well. But I think it's going to be really invaluable to building successful projects here in the next 2 years. So this is now Nino's time to go over the FES IMS application, and I'll hand it over to you, Nino.
Thanks, Brian, and thanks, Gord, and thank you all for taking the time to join the call. Just going to share my screen, make sure I land on the right page. Let me know if that's, folks can see that now. Nods?
Better, Nino.
Yeah, we can see it.
That's all.
Excellent. I'm going to post the link for this page in the chat. You can also access it from the FESBC website. So when you access the site, you won't see this screen because you'll have to register unless you've already registered previously for the site. In that case, just log in. If you need to register, please register and have your email available, because we do have multi-factor authentication. So you'll get a code to your email that you'll have to enter in, which will then sign you into the process. At the home screen, you'll see that we have these two calls here that are currently active: the wildfire risk reduction and the fiber utilization funding. I'll go into this. I'll actually click get started so you can see how the full proposal screen looks like. Keep some key information. You'll see at the top here, we've got a banner that says information, templates. Some of this won't be available to you until you've actually submitted a project or submitted a plan, but you'll have the information tab available, and in the information tab you'll find some info. The last item down here is actually the fiber utilization incremental haul cost calculation template that Brian mentioned and went through in detail. So you can access that through here and fill it out and attach it into the right spot for the full proposal. So I'll hop right into it here. I'll hit get started. You'll have to review the terms and conditions. Otherwise, you won't proceed to the next page. Click the button there and hit accept. Then you'll have to select your organization. So for me, I will scroll down and I will select Pricewaterhouse. Give your project title. Your FP should have a meaningful title. Mine will be 2023 webinar demo. I'm going to select fiber recovery and hit next. So now it's generated your full proposal with a unique ID. Anytime that, should you go back to this portal, like if you close out and you go back to it, you will be able to find it again. Just by clicking, you'll have a new tab up here. It'll be full proposal. You can actually click full proposal and then click on the full proposals. And assuming that's the only proposal you have, you'll be able to find it there. Some folks have applied previously and they'll see a bunch, but you'll see the most recent one. It'll be in a draft state. The best way to navigate through this here is by clicking the banners that are highlighted in green here. So for example, the first piece is the terms and conditions. There's not much to do here. You can just click the terms and conditions to see them. The project overview, again, it gives a confidentiality statement here, but you'll be able to click on this banner and then it'll open up. Please enter the information here as you see it. Anything that has a red asterisk is a mandatory field and you'll need to submit it. Otherwise, you will not be able to submit. You can always check whether you've filled out everything accordingly by clicking validate full proposal. And validations won't pass if there are fields missing. It's actually nice because you'll see the X's for each section. So that indicates, hey, in these sections, you're missing information. And you can navigate, you can sort of minimize sections by clicking the banner again. You can also just click on the banner on the left-hand side here, as you can actually click project overview, and it'll actually just kind of minimize everything for you. If you were to click the financial plan here, it'll bring up the financial plan section, applicant eligibility, and vice versa. So you can navigate either here or here. You have that flexibility. Sometimes when you're working, you're down here. It's hard sometimes to scroll all the way back up if you wanted to go back to your financial plan. So it's a lot easier just to click on the button here, and it'll take you back to the financial plan. So take your time, go through all of this. In the financial plan section, you fill out all the fields as required. If it's got, like I said, if it's got an asterisk, you'll need to fill it out, and if it doesn't, you won't. You'll find drop-down menus for some items, and these kind of radio options for others. Again, proceed all the way down. This is all pretty self-explanatory. You'll select your different fields here. Locations of maps and spatial data upload. You can choose PDF works, PDF maps, or KML files as well. And then again, this is an important field here, the volume by product. If you don't have any volume for pulp, if it's volume for pellet or something, just put 0. Anything that requires a mandatory input and it doesn't apply to you, you can just put 0. That's fine. Going down the list again, just answer the questions. This one here is important. I'm going to draw your attention to it. This is actually where you will upload the fibrillization, the cost template that Brian mentioned, which again, if I wanted to go to the top here, you can find right there. So that's where that one will be uploaded. And if I wanted to go back to that, navigating down. Down towards that field right there. So that's where you upload your cost template. Again, work your way down.
Nino.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can I just jump in for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
So just a bit of a confusing thing that happens in the past is, yes, we want your cost information on that table that Nino just described, but the one piece, and this is us managing the system in regards to getting the information, is that we do have the section called financial plan, which Nino is going to right now. Now, this is a bit of a canned program in regards to some of the stuff in here. So really, at the end of the day, you need to identify your outputs, and people do get confused by this table. I think a key, really, at the end of the day, you can put all your costs of your incremental cost piece in the contracted material labor thing. Don't get too hung up on the categories. other than, you know, put your administration dollars in where it says administration and then GST amount there. Because what it actually does is this is your formal application of funds requested from FESBC as stated at the bottom of this page right now, and that auto populates there. That number needs to match the supporting information that you provide us in the tables in regards to there by the fiscal years. And again, I think just a key thing is on any of the stuff here, just because I got the mic right now, if it's a system issue in regards to you having troubles with the technical challenges of this, please contact our PwC friends. If it's inquiry about what we're looking for in the answers in regards to the descriptions of the information being asked, that's a question to Brian and I. Now, I did see a question in the chat in regards to, I'll just take advantage of this right now, is there's just the two of us. We haven't divvied it up geographically at this point in time. If you're unclear, I think you can call either one of us. And Brian is located in the Kootenays, and he does cover a lot of the Kootenays. I cover the Northwest. The rest of the province we have divvied up. But I think for this one here, it's you can call either one of us, and we'll be in constant communication to ensure we're giving similar answers. And then the only other thing I want to add about, and I've seen it already in some of the applications, the title description. I really recommend give some thought to the title, because that ends up being an automatic thing that we sort things by going forward. And please give us a bit of a description of what actually, you know, where your fiber utilization is. Don't just say pulp use, because then I'll end up with 30 applications that say pulp use. You know, it's utilization of fiber for pulp from the, you know, your geographic of where you are, the Northwest, Kootenays, maybe a delivery point. Anyways, be a bit creative there. So anyway, sorry to jump in there, you know. So.
No, thanks, Gord. Really, we're finishing up. Some things I would recommend to everybody applying is you use Google Chrome if you can. The portal works best on Google Chrome. Make sure your Chrome is up to date. If you're inactive for 15 minutes, the program will kick you out. It should autosave when it kicks you out, but we've had it happen where it didn't. So please hit save full proposal as draft often. Is just good practice, I think. And once you've filled everything out, again, you'll see in red things that haven't been filled out. You can always click validate full proposal. If your validations pass, you can submit your full proposal at that point. And I think that's it for me, Gord. That sort of explains the FP flow.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Nino. Thanks, Brian. We're at 9:55. I tried to answer some of the questions on chat. Brian, you want to just wrap us up and then we'll start the Q&A?
Yeah, I think that is everything. You know, we encourage you to visit the FESBC website. You'll find contact information for both Gord and myself there. There's a reference to the guidebook, everything you need to sort of like get to the next step of your application. Don't hesitate to call us. There's absolutely no bad questions here. So the sooner you guys reach out, the better. And that's all I have there, Gord. Just take some questions if you'd like.
Yeah, okay. I do see a question about the waste and residue timelines. Now, I'm not a waste and residue expert, and to be honest, we haven't really put our mind 100% to this. But if it's an existing cutting authority, my understanding is this is just regular fiber being delivered. So it'll be scaled appropriately and be moved. And then it's not prior to requiring a waste and residue. This isn't a fiber supply license to cut tenure, but I think I'm not 100% sure if I fully understand the question. But if it is an existing cutting authority and you're just moving fiber, it will be marked and moved accordingly. So I don't know if that fully applies to what we call the typical fiber utilization piece. So So that's best I can answer on that one. If you need follow-up, please reach out to Brian and I. So I think I've answered all the questions that I spotted in the chat. I think we'll go to Joe Nemeth. And for those of you who don't know, Joe is with the Pulp Coalition of BC. So
thanks, Gord. Just a question on the timing. So submissions are open now. What is sort of your close date, review date, and kind of get back to us of wave one, just kind of high level?
Right now, we're planning to leave the portal open and accepting applications as long as we have funds. We are targeting to meet with our board just shortly after mid-May. And we're hoping that if we have received quality applications, we can make a strong recommendation. We should have approvals out, hoping to have approvals out by the end of May, for people to basically start their projects as soon as possible shortly thereafter, Joe. So we will be evaluating applications as soon as we receive them. And then we are scheduled to meet with our board in May. And traditionally, assuming that Brian and I do all our work properly, we can get approval with our board shortly thereafter and be able to get the word out verbally immediately thereafter. So that's kind of the timeline there, Joe.
Thank you.
And just to add to that, then it will be evaluation of proposals as we receive, and we will package them up as we see fit to recognize the timeliness is super important, and we'll be active on that consistently with our board going forward. Okay, I think I saw Kevin had a question hand up. Or maybe the hand's down now.
Gord, there was a question from Herb Lachko about how do woodlands figure into the picture?
Oh, woodlots. Okay. Yeah, actually, woodlots are an eligible applicant. So they go through the same process anybody else would be. So basically, if you've got fiber that is deemed outside the economic radius of a fiber of place that you would like to deliver the fiber, you can apply just like anybody else. Or you can work with maybe one of the other parties that have a conversation. I think one of the things that we experienced in the past is the buyers of the fiber will likely be applicants in some cases. So if you've got to block opportunities and work with them in regards to the purchase price and their economic radius, you may get just included in their application as one of their list of blocks. So thanks, Elise. And then just for those, Elise is working in the background on my technical piece in regards to keeping us flowing here.
So Gord, the other piece of intel on woodlots is that Gord Chipman from the Federation is, I believe, I just spoke to him a couple of days ago. He's working on an application for funds and so the Federation could act as a blanket organization to support all the individual woodlots that want to do utilization. Having said that, even if that does come to pass, individual woodlots would not be prevented from applying on their own independently from the Federation. But I just thought I'd throw that out there, so you might want to look into that. Couple of benefits, it's just kind of a pre-approved bunch of funding, and then you just work with the Federation to kind of like as a subcontractor almost, so to speak. And then there's a huge benefit for FES too, and PwC, in that instead of having hundreds of projects to administer with all the different woodlots, it would be just, for us, it would look like one project, blanket program. So you might want to look into that and see what the Federation's up to.
Well, appreciate that, Steve. Yeah, that's a good thing. I know Gord's been pretty active in looking at all opportunities to support the woodlots across province. So,
Gord, Kyle has a question for you.
okay, go ahead, Kyle.
Hey Gord, how's it going?
Good.
Good. Thanks for giving us some of those ranges for average incremental costs. You want it around 10 or under 12, and you've approved some for 20 if it's an innovative use of the fiber. But I'm just wondering, is is FESBC and or PWC willing to share publicly all the historic incremental delivery costs by region and by project? And or do you have a database in which you store all this information, and could that be shared publicly just for everyone on the call or all these proponents on the call?
We've always promised our proponents that we would keep that proprietary information in regards to anything associated with their costs. Now I can give you generic costs in regards to overall in regards to that, but in regards to there is proprietary information in regards to purchase prices and logging costs and stuff that we will not share, Kyle. Just to clarify, in the past, our average has been just over $12 a meter. We are not sure exactly where it would be, but I'm going to say that anything under 20 will be considered.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think the key thing will be is if there's lots of opportunities and the lower costs may be preferred in regards to maximizing the volume across, but regionally, I think it's really about each of the components should be able to prepare their information and give us that information that's there. So I would have to be cautious in regards to, we can share in regards to the total values of projects, and we have the information in regards to the amount of volume delivered, but there's a whole bunch of other factors usually in projects that people can misconstrue in regards to what those individual line items costs are. So we're just a little bit, because of the proprietary as well as the interpretation of the data, we do not share that outside.
So I'll just add a little bit, Kyle. So I guess a good analogy would be timber pricing and all the data that they collect from the licensees across the province. So FES also collects data on costs, and but it's on the condition that it's confidential, and we need to uphold that promise that we've made to those submitters. At the same time, we're also trying to balance that right and protection against the need to be transparent with public dollars. And so we absolutely, as Gord said, we've made it very open and published and provided to the media aggregated averages without violating the integrity of any confidentiality commitments that we've made.
Okay, thanks.
One thing that just kind of came to my mind, and kind of Kyle's question kind of spearheaded a little bit, but really I think the other thing that we didn't mention but is in the guide, BC timber sale are eligible if they were awarded prior to December 31st, 22. We cannot be influencing, our funding cannot be influencing the market pricing that's BCTS objective is. So, and prior to the Premier's announcement, bidding would not been affected. We can't be going into timber sales and appear to be our funding impacting the bidding behavior. So therefore we picked December 31st, 2022 as the cutoff. So any sales where there is uneconomical residual fiber that needs to be moved and could use funding to move it, it will be eligible prior to December 31st, 22. So. Any other questions? Hands up or. Brittany, you're looking for the guide for this intake. It's on the FESBC's website on the information tab, I think, and I don't think it says fiber. It just on there. So it's just an overall guide for FESBC that you should be able to find on the information tab on the FESBC's website. So see Wyatt with his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Gord. Just a quick question on the application. There's a bit about ministry alignment. and there's some talk about land manager. Could you talk to that a bit? And how much engagement do you have to have with the land manager?
So if it's strictly an incremental haul off an existing cutting authority, pretty much zero. Everything's gone through the process there and stuff like that. Where we actually need alignment in is really when we start looking at people want to go in, and it kind of leads to one of the other questions I see Steve has given to everybody here is overstory removal of primarily, I'm just going to talk about fire damage stands and even some of the old pine beetle stands that are still uneconomical that we have opportunities on is we've seen in the past where proponents have gone out and just circled and given us an application for a circle on a map that this is a burnt stand, we want to harvest it. That's where I need land manager authority. There's a lot of land manager values that have to be managed out on the site, and just a random fire damage stand polygon that we think that a licensee or a proponent might think they want to be able to salvage needs to coordinate that with the land manager, because there's other values that they need to do in regards to that. So we've committed to work with the ministry on that. Now, the other thing too is some cases the ministry may be the applicant and they may work with some of the proponents in the area. So there's different ways. The overstory rehab removal piece of burnt timber is very tricky. We have the opportunities to do this under the appraisal manual 511, section 511 and 611. Where we can identify total costs, but it's got to go through a whole bunch of tests in regards to the economic threshold that we have listed in the tables. That's a whole webinar by itself. So I think in regards to anybody that's looking at overstory removal projects, Brian indicated earlier that we should be talking to the ministry. I would actually recommend that you talk to us to concept it out first, and then we go to the ministry in regards to the conversation, or by that recognized vice versa. There is no simple answer to this, how these can be done. There is some tenure challenges that we need to do, there's some pricing challenges, and then there's just the authorize, all those things in regards to getting authorization, and for us to stay out of hot water with regards to softwood lumber. So I think those are all, we would love to be able to see those, but I've had a number of conversations already with the ministry. And we all recognize that this it's going to take multiple parties to work this through, and hopefully we can get some ideas in regards to getting some fiber getting off of these, what we recommend to the ministry, call them abandoned stands. Basically we can't be going into stands that the forest licensees are still interested in, because then we'd be in conflict with what they want. It needs to be something that's truly that nobody wants to go into. There's an opportunity to get into these stands. Now, one of the challenges is, yes, the Pulp Coalition has worked with their members, and they will be accepting burnt stands, burnt wood going into the pulp mills. But those also have some pretty strict criteria that may or may not work in some of these really uneconomic stands. So there's a whole bunch of moving pieces on that one, Wyatt. So. Joe.
Yeah, Gord, I just wanted to build on the point you just made, because there's been a lot of confusion around what a pulp mill can accept or not. And unfortunately, the answer is, guys, it varies. And it varies with a whole bunch of factors, but the main ones, which I think most of you recognize, is one, necessity drives innovation. So 5 years ago, you would have seen very strict standards from pulp mills, because any bark or burnt material in the end product causes serious problems with some of our customers. That's why it's such a sensitive issue. But if your choice is take a product that might have a little bit in or get nothing, guess what? People's minds change. The first point I'll make is kind of necessity and economics will vary. But having said this, I'm in regular contact with every pulp mill, and of course I run most of them. I can tell you all of them will accept burnt timber. And if you got any questions, just reach out to the local guy and talk to them, because they are very, very in dire need of fiber, and they're going to be more flexible, easier to work with than maybe people have experienced or perceived in the past. Thanks, Gord.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, I don't see any more questions. I'd just like to thank everybody for attending and our presenters for presenting and the comments that we heard. We don't by any means think that we have this perfect. One of the beauties of FESBC is we evolve as we go forward. And if there's something in regards to the guidelines that we put in our guide and the requirements that don't work for your project, please have a conversation with us because we can adapt. And you know, I always look at what the big prize is, and the big prize in this in regards to is getting this additional fiber to the facilities that need this to strengthen our forest sector in BC. So if there's something that Brian and I have created in regards to the requirements here, let us know. Or if you're not sure how you fit in, we're here to work with you to see successful applicants so that we can see this fiber delivered and these funds used that we're fortunate enough to receive from the province in regards to. And I think that's a key thing that we, you know, like, I don't know the exact words that I'm supposed to use, but we really want to acknowledge that there's support that we received from the province in regards to the funding that we have received to see these good things happen across our land base across BC and get fiber to facilities that need it, that's outside their economic radius. So I see a question of $12 a cubic meter per threshold of ODT. You're talking to foresters and you're talking to people that are pulp mill people. I'm a forester that works in cubic meters. It depends in regards to the conversion factors. I think rough and dirty is 2.2 to 2.4 is the conversion factor we usually work with, but I'm not the best guy to answer that question at my fingertips. I have a table that I punch things into based on species and everything else. So if I reach out and I don't have the answer for that exact off the top of my head, and maybe Joe does. But again, it all depends on kind of what you're used to in regards to meter. We've converted everything to meters because I think that's the easiest thing for us to work with as a forest, looking at it from a forester's / sector perspective and our communications. So I don't know, Steve or Joe can help me out on that one. Yeah, there you go. 2.2, 2.5, 2.6. I was close. So yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say the same. It really depends. It depends. It's exactly right.
Yeah. We ask you to convert it back. So you might get an ODT price for market value, but then do the best conversion that you can and rationalize and tell us what that conversion is so we can do. We're comparing apples to apples. Otherwise, we're all over the map. So.
Yeah, it varies by species and the relative density of the wood and the moisture content, and if you're chipping whole logs, then then you've got a bunch of other fall down factors, bark and fines and oversize that all has to be netted out. So, but that's a good range, 2.2 to 2.5. I've even seen and used 2.7 for whole log chipping.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve. Well, thanks, everybody. I won't take any more of everybody's time. I budgeted an hour and a half, but I think we all did well. And like I said, register, recognize, a couple key points. If you are applying on behalf of another party, we need to see it in writing. I think the key information is give us the key information that we're looking for. And the more information you give us in regards to being concise and accurate only allows Brian and I to take something up to our board that they will actually want to see good information to make a good decision to fund the right things. So Steve, do you want to close on anything for us?
Well, I'll just thank everybody again. The work that you're doing and are about to do, and new entrants, happy to see you. And Gord put it really well, and it really, I guess, encapsulates our philosophy in terms of what the big prize is. And that is, using this money to do good forestry things. In this case, it's using fiber that otherwise wouldn't be used and might cause a greenhouse gas emission to benefit our forests, to benefit our workers across the province, and it's just really heartwarming to be able to do that. I've heard some pretty transformational stories, for example, with some Indigenous nations now becoming more involved in forestry and forest management and part of the bioeconomy. And you know, and the full range and diversity from community forests, a huge supporter of and participant in FEST programs, and the woodlots and other licensees and the forest consultants. Let's not forget them. They're the folks that support so many of these projects. And just want to thank all of you. Oh, and of course, I can't forget our friends at the Ministry of Forests who work very hard in advancing the goals of the government, and work very well with FEST, especially on those complicated stand rehabilitation projects and so many other things that we've done together in the past. And so I could go on, but I just want to, if I've left anyone else out, sorry, but I just want to thank all of you. It's just so gratifying. Those that do know me know that I've worn many different hats throughout my career, from being a hardcore industry professional to being in senior levels in the provincial government in Victoria and elsewhere. And now I have this dream job in FEST, and it's the greatest, most satisfying work I've ever done. And you're part of it. So thank you very much.
Right. Well, thanks, Steve. And on that, I think we'll close the session. And again, you know where to reach us, I think. Just go to our website and all our contact information is there. So
Thanks so much, guys. Great job.
Thanks, guys.